Hello, my name's David. I'm going to talk to you today about the part 2 of the IELTS B2 speaking exam. So, part 2. The whole thing takes 3 to 4 minutes and it's sometimes called the sustained monologue. Okay, this is because you're going to be talking on your own for about 1 minute. Okay, you're given 2 pictures and asked a question which relates to both of them, and you need to talk about them for about a minute. Okay? So when you finish your minute speaking, the examiner then turns to the other candidate and asks them a question about the same photographs that you've been talking about, and they will talk for about 30 seconds. Okay? This is called the supplementary question. So then student B, the other student, gets 2 photos and they talk for a minute. And when that's over, the examiner turns to you and asks you the supplementary question and you talk for around 30 seconds. Here's a typical, some typical pictures that you might get and the question there. Okay, so this is what the examiner would say. Here are your pictures. I would like you to compare camping and staying in a hotel and talk about advantages and disadvantages of each. Remember, you have approximately 1 minute to do this, so don't worry if I interrupt you. So this would be the typical thing the examiner would say. So you can see there you've got a picture which portrays camping and another one staying in a hotel, and you need to talk for a minute comparing the two. Okay, so it's 2 ideas really, okay, that you need to compare. After this, as I said, then there'll be a supplementary question for the other candidate, and then we repeat the process. So when you're talking for that minute, nobody will interrupt you during that minute, okay? And you shouldn't speak when the other candidate is speaking, okay? This is just one candidate speaking, okay? It's a monologue. You may be, as I'll say later, you may be interrupted by the examiner because the minute has finished. Okay, remember there's always a question there, advantages and disadvantages in our example. You need to answer the question. Okay, as I've just mentioned, you might be interrupted if you talk for more than 1 minute. So try to be concise, and you need to be organized when you are talking. It's not always easy in the exam, but you must try to be. But don't worry if you're interrupted before you finish. It's just the timing. Okay, the examiner must keep to that minute, so everybody gets the same time. But if you can get to, if you're organized, you will get to answering the question before the minute's up. Okay, so we know that there's going to be lots of different pictures. You can't predict what pictures you will get, but you can predict the process. The process is always the same. You're asked to compare 2 pictures and answer a question. So this helps us in our preparation for the exam, because you know you will need to compare. So you need to practice language for the function of comparing. Okay? You can use comparatives, bigger, smaller, longer, etc. But also language like whereas or while or on the other hand. Okay? One mistake people make is they talk about one picture and then say and talk about the other picture. This isn't a comparing linker. So if you use words like whereas or while, okay, that will get you more marks. Okay? Also, you're going to speculate because you've got these pictures sometimes and you've got to say, well, it looks like, they might be, okay? You're speculating, what are the people doing? Or it might be a birthday party. Here, you might be, maybe. Modal verbs are very good for speculating. Could be, okay? Or you can use adverbs like possibly, or it seems, or it looks like. So think about that language. You'll also sometimes be asked to give an opinion. Okay, you're talking about advantages and disadvantages. So how could you express that? Think about ways you can. In my opinion, I should think, I would say, some expressions that you know you're going to use in part 2. Remember, another mistake people make is you don't need to describe the photographs in detail. Or there's a man in a blue shirt with a white tie. No, okay? You need to compare the ideas that the photographs represent. You don't need to describe them. Don't worry if you make a mistake, okay? As we've spoken about in other videos, you lose marks if you hesitate too much and waste your minute just trying to think of a word or worrying about a mistake. If you make a mistake, move on, carry on. If you can't think of a word, think of another way of saying it, move on, okay? One little mistake doesn't matter, okay? Don't worry about that. Just carry on. In the end, what you're trying to show them is you have a B2 language. One little mistake won't change that. One strategy that you can use if you think you need to try to be organized is to do it in this sequence. Not everybody does this, okay? You can just do it as you want, compare the photographs if you feel comfortable doing that. But this is just a little strategy you can use. First of all, say what's similar about the photographs. They always have a theme. You know, these photographs show types of holidays, okay? Or pictures, they're not always photographs. Then say what's different, and here's your comparing. In the first picture, whereas, while in the second, in this situation, okay, on the other hand, in that situation. Answer the question, usually about advantages and disadvantages, but not always, okay? And then your minute might be finishing. If not, what do you do? What do you do if you get to 40 seconds, the examiner's still looking at you? They will say some more, they will let the minute pass. You don't want that last 20 seconds with silence. So have something up your sleeve, something in reserve. So maybe you could say something that's personal to you to fill the space. So, oh, I've never done this, but I would like to, or we used to do that when I was younger, or something in your experience, okay? You don't have to say that. It's not part of the question. It's about comparing and answer the question, but this might fill your minute, okay? So you have something in reserve. This is one way you can organize your speech. In the supplementary question, the question that's asked about the photographs to the other candidate, the shorter question, you should talk around 30 seconds. This isn't timed so much, okay, but it's around that. So what's 30 seconds? 2, 3 sentences, okay? You should say something along those lines, okay? Say 2 or 3 sentences, so an answer and an example should be enough. How can you practice for part 2? Well, find 2 similar photos about a theme from the internet and try to describe them in a minute. Record yourself and listen back. Think about how you organize the speech. Think about a typical question they might ask you. What's the advantages and disadvantages? Okay, you can also practice with a friend or somebody else who speaks English or is preparing the exam and get feedback from them. Okay, thank you very much. So that was speaking part 2. There will also be videos about parts 1, 3, and 4.